everyone, I'm here with a 2020 Volkswagen Atlas Crossport, and today I want to go over the 5 best things about this new crossover. So my favorite thing about this vehicle, and the best thing about it overall, is just the sheer size. It looks trucky, like it has a large front end, very bold proportions with a large stance and really high fenders. Kind of nice shoulder lines that are really crisp and really succinct. And overall, the space, if I walk around the vehicle and show you guys just how much room is in this thing, is unbelievable. Like stepping inside here, it's one of the roomiest, most comfortable front seats. Even though this is the cloth interior in the base S model with the 4Motion all-wheel drive, this thing is extremely comfortable to drive and very roomy. Step into the back seat here. As you can tell, with where I'm sitting at 6 feet tall and where a passenger is slightly back, you know, sitting in a comfortable position with plenty of headroom and legroom, you can just tell how much room is back there. Let me step in here, shake my shoes off, and 6 feet tall, sitting behind myself, I could literally cross my feet back here. I have probably about almost a foot of knee room between me and the front seat, so much room in this. This is a base model, so it doesn't have the armrest, but that would even make it more comfortable. Even on a base model, you still have 12-volt power outlet and a tiny bit of storage here for like a phone. It could slide around because there's no rubber mat, but it does have rear vents, so you could stay warm or cool depending on the time of year for the rear seat passengers. And back here, you can tell you could easily fit a bike or two in here, probably 2 bikes, 2 large Labrador retrievers, whatever fits your fancy. So tons of room, and that's probably my favorite thing about this, is just how much space there is, how much headroom and legroom and cargo space there is, and the towing capacity of, I believe the V6 4Motion all-wheel drive ones can tow up to 5,000 pounds and about 3,500 pounds for I think the front drive V6, and like around 2,000 pounds for the 4-cylinder models such as this one. So very practical, and that's my favorite thing and the best thing about the Crossport Atlas SUV. My second favorite thing about this SUV, the Atlas Crossport, and probably the second best thing overall about it, is the 4Motion all-wheel drive system. This is the base S trim, but it still has 4Motion as an option on this. And so for under $40,000, it's one of the best all-wheel drive systems in the class. Anytime you're basically below 10 miles an hour, it'll always be an all-wheel drive. So it gets great gas mileage, probably about 23 to 24 mpg on this base 4-cylinder model. Even with these base all-season tires, you barely get any slip if you're just around town driving smoothly, even in several inches of fresh powder. So you get plenty of traction, good gas mileage, and it's overall just a fantastic vehicle for the winter. It makes you feel really safe, it makes you feel really solid, and especially when you're hauling the family around in an SUV like this, if you got like 4 or 5 people in there or kids or whatever, you really feel really secure when you're driving this thing. And I think the all-wheel drive system, even on this base model with just the 4-cylinder engine, is probably the best in class when you compare it to rivals like the Honda Pilot, the Toyota Highlander, or other 2-row SUVs. The only thing that would come close is a Jeep Grand Cherokee, but this is probably better than a Ford Edge in the class. So highly recommend that. Highly recommend getting the 4Motion all-wheel drive, because it's the second best thing about this vehicle. The third best thing about the 2020 Atlas Crossport is gotta be the powertrain. So this is just the 4-cylinder turbo engine with 235 horsepower and the 4Motion all-wheel drive system, and a Eisen 8-speed front-wheel drive based automatic transmission. And I gotta say, it's super smooth. The engine is super refined for a 4-cylinder, and there's hardly any turbo lag. So I think it's one of the best executed 4-cylinders in the business. Again, I think this is the EA 888 series of 2-liter engines that VW and Audi are unanimous or synonymous with. So it's just like one of the best 4-cylinder engines for power. I mean, you get 0 to 60 for both the V6 and the 2-liter turbo engine are about 8 seconds, 0 to 60. If you get a fully loaded all-wheel drive 4-cylinder, it's not going to haul around the mass quite as well. But if you get a base model like this, that's really light on options and is probably about 150 pounds less heavy than a fully loaded one with heated and cooled seats and sunroof. This thing hauls it around really well, and it feels punchy for a 4-cylinder. Even in a vehicle that looks big, it's really not super heavy for the 4-cylinder, even with all-wheel drive. For the class, we're looking at somewhere around 4,100 to 4,200 pounds for the 4-cylinder with all-wheel drive. And the V6, you're pushing more like 44 to 4,500 pounds. So a 4,200, 4,250 pound vehicle, this thing actually really gets up and goes, and it gets good gas mileage. I've been getting close to about 23 miles per gallon, even in like extremely cold conditions like this. I just haven't let the car like idle too much. It doesn't have remote start, so that's probably why. But the smoothness of the powertrain has got to be just the third best thing about this vehicle, and just the overall refinement. Even when the engine start-stop, like turns off the engine at lights or a stop sign if you're waiting for a while or in stop-and-go traffic, it shuts down like seamlessly, it restarts seamlessly, so you can barely feel it restart or shut down the engine. And it doesn't turn down the climate control too much, so you really feel like it's really refined inside. So the powertrain has got to be my third favorite thing and the third best thing about this Atlas Cross Sport. The fourth best thing about the Atlas Cross Sport has got to be the way it drives. This vehicle is very quiet on the road. I wouldn't say it's top of the class in terms of quietness, but compared to probably about 50 to 60% of the competition, this vehicle is quieter, and it is probably the smoothest riding vehicle in the class. When it goes over bumps, it just soaks it up. There's no drama. It doesn't feel like a really floaty car like from the 80s or something like that, really floaty. It feels tied down, it feels secure, but you also feel isolated in a smooth kind of fashion. But when you turn the wheel and you're going at high speeds, there's actually very little body roll considering the weight and the size of this vehicle. The steering is actually pretty responsive, and honestly, this thing drives just like a larger Volkswagen Passat, like a larger sedan, just, you know, pushed up higher on its wheels and a larger ground clearance, you know, by a couple inches. And honestly, it feels like the center of gravity is lower in this car than it actually is. So I gotta say, I'm really happy about how this thing drives, how it feels on the road when it comes to the handling. The brakes are really smooth, easy, progressive to come to a stop and to roll along in traffic without like coming to accidentally jamming on the brakes or not getting enough brake force. It's just the perfect amount of brake pedal travel down there. And I gotta say, the throttle pedal is also very responsive. So when you accelerate, hardly any turbo lag, feels very smooth, very nice to drive. And like I said, the steering is very responsive, provides actually decent feedback, better than any Toyota Highlander, Honda Pilot, or Jeep Grand Cherokee, Honda Passport, or Ford Edge that I've driven. This thing has better steering feel in terms of response and heft, as well as feedback. So it drives really well for the class. So I gotta say, that's the fourth best thing about this Atlas Cross Sport, is the way it drives, the way it handles, and the way that it composes itself on the road. The fifth and final best thing about the Atlas Cross Sport for 2020 and beyond has got to be the styling. This is the base S model, and it even comes with alloy wheels, has like a really sharp paint and really sharp taillights with LED headlights as standard, and you know, tinted back windows as any SUV in the class would have, as well as the styling cue right here on the front wheel well and the front fender that connects to the door. It makes it look really sharp and really snazzy. It's just really nice to drive, and it has a really nice style to it, especially if you have this in black in an SEL or SEL Premium trim or the R-Line package. It's honestly a phenomenal looking vehicle for the class, and it looks, you know, more expensive than it actually is. It looks like a $70,000 Audi Q5 or Q7 or something like that when you load it up to an SEL level, even though it costs $20,000 less than one of those vehicles from a premium brand. So I gotta say, the styling is the fifth best thing about this vehicle and the Atlas Cross Sport in general. So those are the 5 best things and the 5 things that I absolutely love about the Atlas Cross Sport. Again, this applies to the new 2020 and beyond Atlas Cross Sport that recently debuted as a shorter model of the Atlas 3-row SUV. Absolutely love it. And it's a great vehicle to drive, a great value, even if in base model trim. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more to come. Have a great day.